At this time, we want to call to order our January 2021 committee meetings. I want to remind commissioners, if you haven't already done so, please turn on your mics. At this time, we want to recognize Dr. Jeff Perry, Superintendent of the Hamilton County Board of Education. Dr. Perry.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Mayor, staff, certainly appreciate the opportunity to be with you this evening. We're going to try to provide you a quick update on the West High School project and then answer any questions that you may have. And at the beginning of this project, we told you that we would keep you updated, make sure that everything was kept transparent. So, first of all, we would like to say we do appreciate all you do. We appreciate your service to the county. We know that this is not an easy job, that you have to make a lot of difficult decisions, and we appreciate you assuming this leadership role and for your support of the school district. Instead, we'll provide a quick update. We'll answer any questions that you may have, and then the projects associated with the West High School, as we said, the cafeteria, the restrooms, the plumbing, the HVAC system, the front office, and the electrical. So what we will do with this to kind of orient you with this is that this would be West High School, of course, and I don't know, this area right here would be where the new cafeteria addition is going. So the area that's located right there. The front entry would be located right here in this area. And then the new restrooms would be going out in this area back in here, the gym restrooms and the auditorium restrooms. So that will kind of give you an orientation of where we're going. Just a few pictures to begin with. This is the front entryway. So as you come up to where that circle would be, then this would be the very first of the building. So as you can see, it has a better front to it. We do have a covered walkway that would come in. And although you probably were not aware when you first saw it, there was about a 6 to an 8 foot grade from the existing front door to where the asphalt started. And so we did have to put steps into there. So steps up this way, and then we do have the handicap ramp that was already in place coming up the other side. So as you come in, we have a lot of windows out front to kind of let that natural light in to give it a little bit more of a high profile look, and then to make sure that people knew where the very front was located. So as you go in, this is when you first walk into the area, and this would be the receptionist area. So in here, this individual would be able to visually identify everybody coming in. And before you were able to get into this door here, this person would have to buzz you through, of course, to get in. And then there would be another door that you have to come into to get into the main office. And then another door you'd have to get into the main school. So in an old situation, we could never really see those individuals where the main office was located. Now we're able to do that. So we do feel like this will give us better security and visual. And then it also gives us the ability to pass things through. So if someone did have a football bag that they needed to be brought in, or if they had a book bag that they needed to be brought in, or payments or any of those natural things, then we can actually take care of all that business without coming into the school proper. Also, this is, once you go into the office, this is the receptionist area. So of course we don't have the furniture in there right now, but this is the reception area. This is another picture of the front office. This is the external view of the cafeteria. So again, if you go back to that orientation, right where the existing cafeteria is, this is the front of it. So again, we'd like to put a lot of natural light into that particular building to make it look a little bit bigger, and also to make it look brighter. This is the old dining area. Right now, of course, we have all the tables set up in there, but this is the old dining room area, and then this is, the bottom half of this is the old dining room area, which goes into the new dining room area. So the part that's maroon and white there, that is the expansion. So the area where the white wall is right there, before you go into that, used to be the brick wall that was on the outside. So we removed that wall and expanded on out into near the driveway. And that we went almost all the way out to the sidewalk, but kept the sidewalk, so we didn't have to replace those. And that enables us to do all the lunches there and be in sync with East. So if we need to trade students back and forth, we can do so This is another picture of the dining extension, so this is actually standing in the new area that it goes over into. This is the exterior of the gym restrooms over by the gym and the auditorium. As you can recall, perhaps, that we had this in the original piece as a change order, but we didn't like the price, so we ended up going out for rebid on that. And we ended up, they started on that a couple months late, but we were working hard on that. So as you can see, this is the inside. It's not very glamorous at this point right now, but you can see that they do almost have it under roof. Actually, they should have had it under roof by this week. So we should be in the dry this week, and they'll begin work on some floor finishes and on the walls and some other things. So this, of course, the stubs out and the rough ends for the urinals and for the commodes. And we do have more women's restrooms out here than we did men. We ended up changing and making a little bit higher ratio for the women. The additional parking, we're going to put the parking down in this area down in here. So we had many different areas that we could have put. We had some up in here, we had some over in here. We didn't really want to mess with the half circle in the front of the area because we just really felt that it had a lot of aesthetic value to it. But we can take this area down here and hopefully get more of the traffic off of the main roads there into the school and get people parking there. We won't do the parking lot. Of course, a lot of the asphalt companies have already closed down, so we won't do that this fall. We'll do that in the spring or in the summer after kids are out. Right now, in the progress report, the kitchen has been turned over, so we are operating from the kitchen now, so we're preparing food in the kitchen. The dining hall, we're in the final stages of cleaning with that, even though we do have some of the kids eating in there right now. We don't have a lot of kids eating in there because we don't want a lot of students in there right now. They're still going back to the classrooms. But we do have that available for some students. We should be able to turn the front office over to the administration within the next 2 weeks. Actually, we're in there right now doing some of the technology work. And if everything goes well, which, you know, it doesn't always go well, but if everything does go well, we should actually be able to get in there in the next 2 weeks or so. And it may take us a little while to do the full transition because we want to work everything out before we go in there, because it's always an issue with HVAC, it's always an issue with some of the technology. But the office should be opened up within the next month for sure. The gym restrooms, of course, you know, we got started on that just a little bit later, but the block has, that is completed. They're working on some of the masonry now. The roof deck, that actually should be on by now, if not by the end of the week, as long as the weather holds up and turns a little bit better here in the next couple of days. The roughing has been completed. And then the HVAC, we're still waiting on some units there because of the virus has held up some parts and components, but that doesn't really hold us up from getting everything else done because those will be external anyway. So right now, we're on schedule. Actually, we should be done with everything in the next 45 days. We actually should be done with everything in the next 4 weeks. But we were due to be finished in August, but we are well ahead of schedule, and so be finished here in just the next little bit. We are on budget. We actually do anticipate a little bit of a surplus, not a lot, but we do anticipate a surplus, and that we will be coming back to the commission to give that back. As we told you that we would be honest, we'd be transparent with you. We did what we said we were going to do. We tried to do it in the time period that we said that we were going to do it in, and if there's money left over, we're going to bring it back. So again, not a lot, but it is some, and we have been very judicious in this whole process about making sure that we stay within budget. So, as I said, the dining room's open, kitchen's open, gym restroom should be done in the next 30 days or so. Front office, we really should be done in the next 30 days. We should be able to finish up very quickly. And the ribbon cutting, which we will invite all of you out to, we will announce that just a little bit later, but we will have that soon and go through that process there. I think I may have lost the mic, but I think that's okay because we're about at the end. School district update. Right now in middle high school, we are on a virtual option, and what that means is that we are open. So if a student needs to come to school, because we do know that some students don't have internet. We also know that some students are not doing well virtually. If that happens, we're open for business. So we still run buses, students can come. But what we have asked, if you could stay home at the middle and high school level, so that we can kind of see how the numbers have worked out and to make sure that it's safe to come back to school. Elementary, we are in person, and with that, we've been open, and most of our elementary students have come back. We did get our computers in that we ordered for the elementary school, and so with those, we've been working with our teachers this week and working with our students to make sure they're acquainted with the new software, to make sure they're acquainted with the new devices, and they would be ready to go virtual Monday if we needed to go virtual. However, we've talked to our elementary school folks, and the majority of them want to stay in person if at all possible. And the reason for that, it's very difficult, of course, to teach students to read and to write at the elementary level virtually. It's very, very difficult to do that in the primary grades. So we are really trying to do as much as we can to keep kids in school at the elementary level. What we have done is we've set up a school health team at each school. And so that health team is comprised of a principal, of a school nurse, of teachers from every grade level or every subject area. They will monitor the situation in their own rooms or in their own buildings. If they ever feel like they get at a point where they cannot safely stay open, they will contact me, we'll have a discussion, and then we'll close down that grade level or we'll close down that school. Because what we have found is that we have not experienced a large number of positive cases throughout the county. It's been in spots. So we may have to close Russellville Elementary School down and let the other schools go. So we will look at that to see as we do, but we will do that on an individual basis. And our primary factor there is to make sure that people are safe. Now, coming back, as of yesterday, we only had 38 cases. Now, if you remember back in December when I talked to you, we had about 108 cases when we left on December the 22nd. So we have a small number of cases right now, but we do anticipate that is going to jump significantly over the next 3 or 4 days. Because what we saw, we didn't see the big spike after Thanksgiving until a week and a half after Thanksgiving. It took a little while for some things, I think, to germinate and some things to process, and then a lot of people started getting sick about a week and a half later.
Dr. Perry, does that include staff numbers as well?
It's staff and students. So right now, we've only got 38. Now, what I will say is that a lot of our students, while they were out over Christmas break and while they're doing it virtually, if they went to an emergency care or urgent care, oftentimes we don't know about that unless they call and tell us, only if they go to the health department or unless they call us. So that number could be a little higher simply because some of the students, but almost all the staff we know about. Now today we had 15 cases just today. So we're seeing the build up here after that Thanksgiving break. Right now we only have 41 quarantined. I talked to one of the superintendents in a neighboring school district, and last month they had over 1,000 people quarantined. So we've done a pretty good job about limiting the number of students and staff that have to be quarantined. Today, one of the important things that we look at is the sub-fill rate, is that how many subs were needed that were not there. So we ran about 80% today, which meant that we had 80% of the positions filled. Of those other 20%, we had an instructional aide go in, we would take the librarian to go in, we'd take the music teacher, but we did fill that with a staff member. Right now, 80%, even though you wouldn't think that would be good, actually 80% is excellent for these times. Trying to find at least 80% of your classrooms being filled. Now, also what we're doing on a lot of this, the teachers are actually teaching at home that are quarantined who are positive. So they'll actually stay at home, they'll get on remotely, they'll actually teach, and we'll have somebody in that classroom to watch the students and help answer questions and supervise the students, but we continue with the instructional process so that we don't get any further behind. The one thing that we are going to do, if we do have to close down, and this is for our industry leaders and our business leaders, because we know that a lot of folks depend on us to be open, because if we're closed, then a nurse can't go to work because she doesn't have child care, that somebody at Tough Torque can't go to work because they don't have child care. So what we're doing with our extended school program, if we're out of school, We will open up the ESP program at 6:30 in the morning, and we shut it down at 6 o'clock at night. Anybody can come, K through 6, and we will allow that to be free. So if you're working and we're not in school, then you get to come to that free. Now, if you are taking advantage of it in the morning or afternoon and we're open, you still got to pay for the mornings and the afternoons. But during the day, while we should have been in school, we're taking care of that ourselves, as long as we can. So right now, we're able to do it financially. We have a little bit of reserves in that program. And this program is self-sufficient, so there's no tax dollars going into that. That is self-sufficient into that. We also talked to parents about that we would try to give advance notice if we did have to close. So I've told our school health teams, if it's getting bad, we need to know 2 days ahead of time. We don't want you to call me on Wednesday and say we've got to shut down on Thursday, because parents have a difficult time finding child care, or they have a tough time talking with their employers about that. And so we've talked about giving that 2-day notice so that we can close school in a safe and orderly manner, but still parents will have the opportunity to make those arrangements. Athletics, we are continuing with athletics right now. We're limiting that to only parents. We do have senior night coming up, so we're going to allow a couple of grandparents to come in. But on this, unless you're a school personnel or somebody really involved in the game as a parent, then we are severely limiting the number of spectators into that. So, and that's just to keep everybody safe in the stands, still wearing masks, still taking the temperatures, all those kind of things. But we're trying to give our student athletes that opportunity, that experience. I know that not everybody is an athlete, not everybody understands that 100%, but for some of our kids, that high school athletics and middle school athletics is a real important piece. And so we want to try to give students that opportunity if we can do so safely. And right now, we're actually doing pretty good, we think, because we've not really had to shut down the entire season. We're still, able to play. So at this time, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, may I answer any questions that you have?
Dr. Perry, I don't have a question. I just got a statement, a little story I'd like to tell.
Okay.
I was informed about back middle of November. You talk when you come to us and you tell us about staff members filling in when it's well outside their job description realm. I was told about this, and I just think everybody in the community needs to know. It was back in the November time frame at Manly. There was, well, there's 2 school buildings. There's supposed to be 2 custodial staff per building, and we were down to 1 to cover both. The 2 principals that were there were trying to pick up the slack as they could. Emptying the trash, making sure it all got done. And one evening, you happened to find out about it, that they were doing that. And you took off your jacket, rolled your sleeves up, and started helping them. And you helped them with that. And then you took it upon yourself, knowing that only 1 custodian was there, to find a day, which was very near to that one. I don't know if it was the following day or the next, but you cleared your schedule and you showed up bright and early. We're escorting the children in, taking the temperature, talking to people, and then after that you stayed and you did a deep clean sanitize of every bathroom in both schools so that our children had a clean place to take care of their needs. Dr. Perry, sir, thank you so much for what you do for our children. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I certainly appreciate that. Just don't tell my wife I'm thinking about it. Again, that will be expected, but I do appreciate that. Thank you for mentioning that. We have, and everybody at the central office has done that. I think I've worked over 3 weeks in the cafeteria. Jennifer Buchanan, who's our food service, doesn't really like me in there because she says I eat more than I serve. So that seems to be a problem, but we've worked there and we've done the custodial work. But we do believe it is important to do what you need to do.
The main thing of this is you ask for no publicity. You just did it because it needed to be done for our kids, and we thank you, sir.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, sir.
Your leadership. Thank you. And we just can't wait to see how much of this budget surplus that you can return to us. Excited.
Well, now you're not going to be able to build a new school with it or anything, but in all seriousness, we do really hope that we create this relationship with this commission. This is always the way I've operated, is that we don't just spend the money because we have it. If we've got the surplus, we're going to bring it back because there will be other needs. And as we have those other needs, then there's the faith there that we will be honest and transparent with you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Perry. We appreciate your report.
Anything else, sir?
Not for me, everybody. He's trained well.
Guys, have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. I'll just leave the clicker on the front here. Thank you.
Commissioner Goin, Chairman of the Public Service Committee, you are recognized.
Thank you, sir. Public Service Committee order. Anybody wishes to address the committee? Yeah, 5 minutes. Then we're done. New business. The opioid lawsuit. Dan, you want to speak about that?
Thank you for entertaining me again, and I'll explain why I'm back. But with me, I have Tricia Hartsfield. She's with the Branstetter Law Firm that has helped me bring the opioid action that I brought in Kingsport in Sullivan County on our behalf. As you were voting, and I appreciate your support of the resolution that I asked you to pass in December, about the time you were voting, the Supreme Court of this state issued an opinion in a sister lawsuit. And that opinion said, and the main thing about it, it was a major victory, was that it said that the pharmaceutical companies absolutely were liable under the Drug Dealer Liability Act. It went on to say, if we can prove what we set out in our complaint, then basically it's a no-brainer. They're going to be liable. But they did cause us to have to come back to you for a technical change. They did rule that I could not stand in your place as a plaintiff. I could represent you as an attorney, but we would have to substitute Hamlin County in as the plaintiff. And so what we presented to you now to consider is a resolution basically hiring me, the Branstetter Law Firm, so that we can file a motion under Rule 17, I believe it is, with the Tennessee Rules of Civil Procedure to substitute Hamlin County in for me, so that we can continue our lawsuit. As I told you last month, our lawsuit is trial ready. And I'm going to let Ms. Hartsfield tell you the status of where we are. But as soon as the COVID restrictions are lifted, and as soon as the judge has substituted parties, it's ready for trial. And we've got endos standing who's either going to face a trial or going to give us money specifically for us, not a global settlement, but our settlement. And so I'll turn it over to Ms. Tricia.
Thank you, General Armstrong. Thank you so much for having me, everyone. It's so lovely to be able to speak to you. I just want to let you know a little bit about where we are in our trial preparation. As General Armstrong said, as soon as the COVID restrictions lift, we should be ready to be in a jury trial in 30 days or less. And just to give you an update as to what we found, because I think y'all might be interested. Hamlin County itself, as you know, has a population of 64,569 people as of 2018. And as far as opioid pills, from 2006 to 2014, Hamlin County received 84,117,251 opioid pills. Now, of those opioid pills, they weren't just the normal ones, they weren't just little ones, they were the strongest types of opioid pills people can have. And you tend to find those when people get addicted and they get hooked, they need something stronger and stronger to feed their addiction. The way that's measured is it's called morphine milligram equivalence. It tells you the strength of the pill. Hamlin County, from 2006 to 2014, the morphine milligram equivalence of opioid pills that it received was 1,000,000,000 834,785,612. And again, your population is a little under 65,000 people. So that breaks down to 210 10 milligram opioid pills for every man, woman, and child in Hamlin County for every year since 2006. So if y'all are feeling an opioid crisis, that's why, right? These opioid manufacturers had these numbers, they knew it, and they pushed the pills into Hamlin County specifically. Now, I know General Armstrong has talked to you a little bit about our case. It is the 3 judicial districts, as you know, which encompass the 9 counties. They were actually the worst affected in the entire United States, and that bears out. The emails and the depositions that we've taken have found that the big pharma executives, not only did they know Tennessee was a problem, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, they knew specifically that Morristown was a problem. Morristown. So you have top executives of these pharmaceutical companies talking about Morristown, Tennessee, talking about Sullivan County, talking about Johnson City, talking about all sorts of places around here, and not in a good way, right? Knowing that people are overdosing, knowing that babies are being born, knowing the dramatic impact this opioid crisis was having on your community. And so with that information, they decided to pump more pills, and more and more and more. In fact, one of the companies actually considered, the one that we're supposed to have trial against, actually considered pulling Opana, their big drug, from the Tennessee market because it was so bad. It was so bad that they actually came up with a name for it. It was called the Tennessee effect. So when folks had to go to the FDA and talk about the Opana issue and defend their drug, they said, well, you can look at all these numbers, but whatever you do, don't look at Tennessee's. Because Tennessee's numbers are so bad, you have to take them out because they skew everything else. They called that the Tennessee effect. So they knew. And they considered pulling it from the Tennessee market so those drugs wouldn't be available to your neighbors and your children, your spouses and your teachers. And instead they looked at the profit margin and decided that that was not the right choice. And they continued selling here anyway. In our case so far, we've hired 9 different experts who've spent an extraordinary amount of time in the 9 counties, interviewed over 30 local experts, trying to devise a plan on how to help people in these 3 judicial districts. Not New York City, not Chicago, not Nashville. We've spent an extraordinary amount of money bringing them down here to develop something that works for Upper East Tennessee, something that works specifically to get to people in the more rural communities, to make sure we've got hubs that'll work. The total for the plan that the district attorneys have come up with in order to, that the experts have come up with in order to help this crisis would be $2.4 billion for the 9 counties. And that's just to try to fix things moving forward. Since we filed our lawsuit, Purdue and Mallinckrodt have both declared bankruptcy. 2 pill mills have gone out of business. In the Mallinckrodt bankruptcy, they specifically referenced our lawsuit, the one filed in Sullivan County by General Armstrong, as one of the contributing factors to why they decided to file. We've taken over 160 days of depositions, and we've reviewed hundreds of millions of pages of documents. We've looked at all that testimony, and that's how we found out specifically about what they knew about these 9 counties. We've spent 3.5 years litigating it. We've had quite a bit of cooperation from your community. I appreciate that. Sheriff Jarnigan was deposed, along with Wendy Williams, who's your HR director, Tom Thompson, Lieutenant Chris Blair, the Morristown Police Department, and Dwayne Collins, who's formerly of the Morristown Police Department. He had actually quite a bit to do with discovering the crisis nationwide. Anyway, so we're the next trial in the country. We're the next set. This is it. We're the next ones. So as soon as COVID lifts, we should be in trial in about 30 days. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
So just so I can make clear, for us to move forward, you would need to pass the resolution. Again, I thank you for passing the one last month. I did not anticipate the lack of standing ruling that the Supreme Court made, but it's pretty clear that that they want the pharmaceutical companies held responsible. It was a 5-0 ruling that the Drug Dealer Liability Act absolutely applies to them. So for us to move forward and to try to get a Hamlin County specific award, not a global settlement, we need you, if you would, be so kind as to pass the resolution that we presented you and to retain myself and the Brandstetter Law Firm on this action, the drug dealer liability action. And we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and, as a part of Hamlin County, to support this lawsuit.
Yes,
Go ahead and do.
We're not at that point yet. We
I
got
apologize.
we have another law firm that we need to hear from,
yeah.
and then I'd like to hear from Mayor Britton myself, because I submitted some questions to him earlier.
Could you repeat the amount of the projected settlement?
Well, what we have asked for in damages, our experts' reports have been filed, and it's $2.9 billion for the 9 counties of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Judicial District. That's to address treatment centers. That's to address all the things that are necessary in order to get people off these pills.
Dan, has there been any education or any training going to the doctors here in Hamlin County?
Well, I hope they took note that Dr. Muhammad spent a lot of time in federal prison, and he is now a cooperating defendant with us. I think I can announce that. I can tell you this, the number of prescriptions have gone down, so I think it is, I told you last time, and I believe this with all my heart, I want to get money to address the problem, but if I don't get a dime, it's been worth it. Because 2 of the bad actors are in bankruptcy, 1 was in federal prison, and the amount of opioids available is going down. So if we've accomplished nothing else, we've accomplished that. But a specific education program we have not developed. That's certainly one of the things that could be used with any damages money we get, is to educate. We need to educate the board over the doctors. They need to be more active. Quite frankly, they dropped the ball. Dr. Muhammad was one of the leading opioid prescription writers in the country, and they did nothing, absolutely nothing. And when I started the investigation into Dr. Muhammad, when we unveiled all that was going on, I ended up turning it over to the feds because they could prosecute under Medicaid fraud, which much stiffer penalties than I could locally. And so, yes, I hope they've gotten the message. I think they have. I'm not saying we don't have any bad actors here, but.
Well, my concern is also not only from bad actors that's here, is new doctors coming aboard, coming in with Hamlin County, stuff like that. I understand there's several of them coming out of New York moving down here.
Yeah, I will tell you this, I'm aware specifically of like the Summit Medical Group, some of you are aware of. My understanding is they have instituted a program within their own group to flag where somebody's writing a lot of prescriptions for opioids and they're coming before an internal review board. Why are you writing all these prescriptions? That's it.
The way I understand it, you and this young lady here at the law firm, y'all done the groundwork on getting this ready to go to court.
Yes, sir, we are ready to go to court.
Okay, but y'all the ones.
Yes, well, you're giving me too much credit. This lady in her law firm has done
Our law firm has done the
over 160
groundwork, the
depositions.
paperwork to send it to court.
Yes, and we're in a position, and I'll be quiet, but we're in a position to where we can force Endo to either face a Tennessee jury or give us money specifically for Hamlin County.
Anybody else? Thanks, Dan, we appreciate everything you've done. Jesse from Jesse Law Firm?
Spray this down if you want here, taking off my mask. Thank you for asking me to come here again today. I have met a few of you back in 2017 when we were originally approached to come to Hamlin County, and we came here first of all 95 counties because Hamlin County is home to me. It means something to come here and file a lawsuit. So in June of 2017, we came here and you all unanimously voted at that time to go with us to allow us to file a lawsuit on behalf of Hamlin County. We were not just filing against the manufacturers, and that was the big difference between my case and General Armstrong's case. At that time, I told you I didn't have a problem with you going with both of us because they filed on behalf of General Armstrong, not Hamlin County. If you'll look at, and we sent at that time the 2 separate complaints to Hamlin County. Our complaint, which was in federal court, says Hamlin County versus a slew of people. It's the manufacturers and the distributors. I believed in 2017, as I believe here today, that your best lawsuit is not just against the manufacturers, because you're completely missing the distributors. Amerisource, Cardinal, McKesson, and now Johnson & Johnson are big 4, and if you look at their SEC filings, they admit that they're going to have to pay money. The key is how much. In 2017, and I just want to go over some things General Armstrong said, I told you then, well actually my husband did, that we did not believe that they had standing to file the lawsuit for your county under General Armstrong's action. We were correct. On December 17th, 2020, which we had expected it to come down that week, and we had actually went ahead and scheduled to meet with some counties, the Supreme Court of Tennessee handed down the order that says their lawsuit, a companion case, which was for Claiborne County, they dismissed it as to the Attorney General. I will tell you, you need to read this for yourself. Don't trust what I say. Don't trust what he says. But the only thing, nothing is 100% and nothing is guaranteed. The only thing they said going forward about the lawsuit is that taking these factual allegations as true, as required at this stage of the case, we hold that the Baby Doe plaintiffs has stated a claim against the drug companies under this act. So for your case, which was also filed, which I sent you a copy of, that in essence will dismiss all of the Attorney Generals. The state Supreme Court says that the only party that can go forward is the Baby Doe allegations. So now they're coming forward saying, well, Mr. and Mrs. Jesse was right. They did not have standing, so now they want to essentially, as he says, amend their complaint to now represent you. However, it defeats the purpose. As I told you in 2017, your best case is not just against the manufacturers, but you're leaving out a pot of money there that's with the distributors too. Like they said, 2 of the manufacturers, the biggest one, Purdue Pharma, is in bankruptcy. You're not amending to file a complaint against them. All you're doing is amending, and you're going to go to the same bankruptcy court that we're in with Purdue Pharma, and we can get you there. The other things that they've said in regard to going to trial in 30 days, it would surprise me greatly if that could occur. For 2 reasons. The state Supreme Court has shut down all jury trials, at least to the end of January. And Judge Moody, that has your specific case, is at home with blood clots. And when I called him today trying to get a jury trial myself on a separate case, he gave me a May date. So for us to say that any jury trial of this magnitude would be ready to go in 30 days, I just don't believe is accurate. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you something that I truly don't believe in. What I can offer today, and the reason I was approached by some citizens and some concerned members to come back is this. If you want us to go forward and file a lawsuit, the original lawsuit we gave to you, that offer is still open. Today, though, you cannot choose us and them. You have to choose, and that's what you're choosing. Hamlin County has to choose today to go to war because you don't have a lawsuit pending today. You're just not there. So you can choose to either go with us and let us file on your behalf against the manufacturers and the distributors, or you can choose to file with them, remembering that 2 of the manufacturers are in bankruptcy. What can we offer you as a law firm? Everything she said about the facts and statistics are true. We've done all of our independent discovery. We came to Hamlin County first, so I had to pull your numbers first, and I did that out of respect, as I said before, because this is home, this is where I practice, this is where I grew up in. And we also offer a locality and a representative that you won't get with them. We put somebody in Hamlin County to do all the discovery, to be a complete liaison. We will hire Ms. Ann Hale, who's already working with us in other county litigations, to sit here, so you will have somebody physically in Hamlin County working on this case for you, pulling the discovery, prepping you for trial. We offer the ability to get back into the action if that's what you choose you want to do. But as we said in 2017, just amending their complaint, I don't think is going to cure it. It worries me because then they have to jump over other obstacles at that point in time. The judge has to approve an amendment. So I think going forward, you have a clear decision, and do you want to stay with a firm that's already lost the case based upon a technicality we told you from the beginning they would lose it on? Does anyone have any questions?
Ms. Joseph, just one quick question. A lot of these cases we see in the news and such, after a finding in court, they get challenged to higher court and higher court. How high a court can your firm practice in?
I am personally licensed to go to the U.S. Supreme Court, and I am licensed in every federal court in the state of Tennessee. And I respect General Armstrong. I supported him in the campaign, but he does criminal law. We do mass tort litigation. That is what my husband primarily does. So we do this, and this is something we do it very well in. And one other thing that they've alluded to, like I said in your complaint, if you look at their complaint, when you go to trial, all the counties will be on their complaint. I know they say it's Hamlin County's damages, but you're going to have a trial of a lot of counties together. When we go to trial on yours, it's Hamlin County. You're the only person we're trying that day against, like I said, a plethora of defendants.
Ms. Joseph, how many counties do you represent in regards to this?
In the state of Tennessee, we have 13.
On this particular item?
Yes. Does anyone else have any questions? Thank you for asking me back. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you today.
Thank you. Very great. She killed her term.
Mayor, the reason I asked to hear from you is I know that you were in discussion regarding the agreement this afternoon,
Yes.
and I would be very interested in what you were able to work out.
Well, what I would, if you look at the two retainer agreements, one for Brandstetter and the group out of Nashville, and then the Jessies, if you look at their agreement back from 2017 to 2018, is there's two different percentages. There's 25% for Brandstetter and General Armstrong, and 33.33% for the Jessies.
That would not be the, I'm sorry, that's not an updated contract, it's 30%.
Okay, 30%. Also, there's, in both documents, there's plus the costs that the firms have incurred that would be shared among all the plaintiffs to get the cases to trial or to settlement.
That's above
That's above, yes, that's above the percentage. And so, and I'm not sure what the Jessies situation is, but as far as Brandstetter, it's right at $5 million. That would be divided among the 10, basically 10 plaintiffs, the 9 counties and then the baby. So that's what we've talked about this afternoon. I think though that it would be good for you guys to hear the difference between these two suits, or what was explained to Mr. Capps and I this afternoon. Tricia, if you could come forward and just talk about the difference between the two.
Hi, happy to speak with you all again. Thanks for that. Yeah, there is a difference between the case that we have with General Armstrong here, which is filed in state court. Will be heard by Chancellor Moody, as you know, in Sullivan County, so a local judge. you know, with a local jury who will hear about local problems and will make their decision. The case, and I would just want to say I'm hesitant to say anything negative about, you know, someone else who's trying to hire you, because it's not really typically what we do. But I would say that the difference in the other case is that the case that Ms. Jessie is talking about is in the multi-district litigation. So that's in federal court, and it goes to Cleveland, Ohio. That's where all those cases are. My understanding is that all the cases in Tennessee that are in the multi-district litigation are stayed, as in they're not moving. They've been filed, but there's not anything specific as to Tennessee that is going forward for those cases. There's no trial date set for the Tennessee cases. They're kind of thrown in with thousands of others from counties all across the country, and then different tracks are picked out about who's to do what when. There's also been some discussions, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn because I think it's all been reported in the paper, about global settlements that would happen in that federal court in Cleveland to, you know, take care of all those thousands of cases. And my understanding is there would be a formula that would, you know, have to do with population and, you know, perhaps how bad your issue is, but primarily on population. And then each county would get whatever percentage it is that's going to be based on population, and then I think MMEs and overdoses. So when you're looking at your pro rata share there, as we said, Hamlin County has just under 65,000 people. In the MDL are also places like New York City and Chicago, Los Angeles, etc. So you know, that's one of the other issues with the MDL versus what we're offering, which is a local jury and a local judge, and having them heard right here. And if they're going to settle, they got to settle with you all, right? It's not going to be global settlement. It's going to be, hey, we got this case. How much is it going to take? And you all get to be involved in that. You get to approve it, and when the money comes back to you, not as part of a global settlement. My understanding is also, so far as the distributor stuff goes, there have been vast negotiations about global settlements for the distributors, and Ms. Jessie is right on that, but they have been global settlements. So again, you're looking at whatever formula is put together to give Hamlin County its share. And so far as the bankruptcies go, we already have hired and have been in the Purdue and Mallinckrodt bankruptcies. We've got a bankruptcy counsel that we hired specifically to handle the Tennessee state cases that we have, which is over 40 counties that we filed on behalf of. And so your DDLA claims, the one we filed with General Armstrong, we've been negotiating all along and trying to really change the tenor of some of those negotiations from a population base to an impact base, because really it's the more rural communities that have been impacted so much more by this opioid crisis. And so we're trying to kind of change that dynamic and be able to bring as much money back as we can. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
At the end of the day, how can we judge to say which group would we get more benefit here in Hamlin County at the end of the day?
Mr. Hudson, Joe, my understanding of these suits is limited because I'm not an attorney involved in these suits. But I have obviously talked with Mr. Armstrong and Ms. Hertzfeld. We've talked with Ms. Jessie, and it's my understanding that the quote global settlement that we are you have heard talked about, that even if we don't go with the lawsuit that the Jessies have presented to us, that at some point that we would receive some portion of the settlement. That could be mistaken, but that's what I have been led to believe. That we would not be prohibited from recovering from these distributors, even though we've recovered from these manufacturers. And if that's incorrect, then I will gladly let these people who are involved in it correct. But as I understand it, just because we get the manufacturer's money through a suit that we may pursue through Mr. Armstrong and Ms. Hirschfeld's law firm, does not mean that we could not also recover against the manufacturer, not the manufacturer, but the distributors eventually.
To get a second lawsuit.
Well, it would be a second payment of some sort. From my reading and from my understanding of what these folks have said, that's what I've been led to believe. And I will be corrected if I'm wrong. That's just all. So to say that we can somehow say which one of them is going to give us the most bang for the buck, I cannot say that.
Okay, now with Armstrong, it stays local, basically, or in Tennessee.
The Tennessee case,
The other one goes to
the other case is the federal case.
wherever we go.
Just let me make one point. I'm not asking you to choose. They're asking you to choose. I don't know why they're asking you to choose, but they're asking you to choose. I'm not asking you to choose. I'm just asking you to help me finish what I started. Get money on behalf of Hamilton County as soon as possible. That's all I'm asking.
Mr. Mr. Armstrong, let me make a statement regarding that. They're here because one of our commissioners wanted to be a part of this discussion. So they're not, I hope you don't see that we're, okay.
In fact, I want to say again, I'm not here to tell you what to do with the NPL.
Okay.
All I'm here to tell you is let me finish what I started. And I do ask you to read the Supreme Court decision. They're very clear that I have an absolute right to represent you if given the authority to do so. And that's what I'm asking for in the resolution.
Yes.
I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
I don't know what you read, but that for you to get any money from the distributors, you're going to have to file something. There's no guarantee. I think that's one thing General Armstrong agreed upon is if you leave it up to the state's attorney general, you'll get nothing. Like we got nothing in the tobacco settlement. I mean, compared to what the state of Tennessee got. So if you want money from the distributors, you have to file the locality, we're local. We file, it is filed, Hamlin County, in the complaint I gave you, will be filed in the federal court of Greenville. That federal district court encompasses Hamlin County. We pulled jurors from Hamlin County, Jeff County, Greene County. So yes, it's locally filed in a federal court. And we did that because we went after the distributors. I was asked to come back to give you another bite at the apple and the opportunity to get more if that's what you want. And if you don't want it, that's completely fine. But since his lawsuit was dismissed, based upon the Supreme Court ruling, we wanted you to know that Hamlin County sitting here today has nothing filed. So you need to move quick. And one thing that concerns me from my lawsuit as well as theirs when they amended, something that we told you in 2017 is if you wait, the statute of limitations may toll. So the longer you wait for the county, the worse it's going to be. So whatever you choose to do, you need to move quickly.
Mr. Armstrong, will you be filing anything?
Upon passage of the resolution that we've asked you to pass and the enter of the retainer agreement, we will file a motion pursuant to Rule 17 of the Tennessee Rules of Civil Procedure, which allows us to substitute a party of interest. And there's no question you've been a party of interest because the judge knows. We've taken depositions from your medical examiner. We've taken depositions from your sheriff. We've taken depositions from multiple people in Hamlin County. The judge knows you're a party of interest. The judge just happened to feel, as we did, that I could move forward as plaintiff. Judge Booty I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, the Supreme Court, Ms. Jessie Wright, has ruled that I cannot do that. But it also said I can, under the Drug Deal Liability Act, continue to represent you. And the rules of civil procedure make it clear that we can substitute a party. So that's what we'll be doing. That lawsuit's not dead. It's still pending in front of Judge Newton. Okay? The lawsuit's still there. He's not put out any order.
At this time, you wanted to make a recommendation?
Yes, I'll go ahead and move with the lawsuit with retain Colonel Armstrong.
Okay, I got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second?
We have some discussion.
Yes, sir.
I just want everybody to think and look at this. Prior to, we were told that it was a no-brainer, it was gonna happen. And then another group told us they can't. And that other group was right. My thoughts, I watch the news like all of you guys, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know. But there's only so much money in the budget. And when this all comes down, these big groups are gonna go to a law firm somewhere, and they're gonna petition court. This is all that we've got that we can give. It's empty after that. After that, we're in the negative. And that's gonna get distributed out. Well, as we all know, and we've all seen, money gets distributed out on the federal level long before it comes down to state level. And if we're filing federal court versus state court, we need to look at this. I mean, a lot of these so-called settlements from the tobacco industry that people got 600 millions and this and that, they should not been paid. They're still in litigation trying to beat the decision of lower courts. So I think we need to think about this before we go, because once we go, like I said, we're done.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Dan Armstrong, we want to say an aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next item, surplus item from the Hampton County Sheriff's Department, Kent Miller. Here.
We're trying to surplus a 2005 camper, KZ camper that we got from the surplus to the military. We're involved in the 1033 program, they call it. We got this camper with intentions on having like a mobile command post, which really didn't work out for us. We've had it since May of 2016, and we're asking to surplus it.
Has it ever been used?
It has, but we recently got a grant and got a enclosed trailer, and that's what we're going to use for that. This camper itself we're going to go to.
Okay. Do I have a motion? So motion.
Did you,
Tim?
who made the motion? Tim, okay.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor of surplus the camper, make a motion by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Video recording of the commission committee meetings. Jeff? Good evening.
I'm simply asking that we clarify the responsibilities and the goals of the video recording of the meetings to make it clear that cutting any portion out of the actual meeting itself between the opening and the adjournment would be prohibited, but otherwise editing to add subtitles or remove portions, before and after the meeting would be permitted. Also, our past practice has been to archive these meetings locally in the courthouse in 2 different departments. That wasn't covered by the November motion, and so I'm adding that.
So basically, nothing materialized that happens in here is going to be changed.
Not at all.
Okay. Do I have a discussion?
When you started recording, I guess you warm it up, check your audio and check your video
I started recording about 5 o'clock.
Is that what you want to eliminate?
Yes. And I want to make it very clear that I would be permitted to do editing such as adding subtitles to the video, or if I'm able to improve the sound quality. All those things would be considered edits, but could also be viewed as prohibited by the November motion.
Nothing will be taken away from beginning to end?
Nothing at all would ever be cut from the meeting after it is opened and before it's closed.
Yeah, it's just
Quality purposes.
preparing yourself to video it.
Correct.
Will be on the video, and let it run a few minutes longer as the meeting, so you don't eliminate those.
I would eliminate those portions that are before the meeting opens and after the meeting closes, yes. That's currently happening.
Anybody else, anything? Thank you, Jeff.
We have a recommended amendment before us, and Mr. Chairman, I would move that we amend the original motion. All committee, regular, and special call meetings of the Hamilton County Commission shall be recorded in their entirety. No portion of any meeting from the call to order through adjournment will be deleted from the recording. Such recordings shall be made available to the public through the Hamilton County Government website and YouTube channel, and shall be distributed to local television stations. The recordings shall be archived, and the archive copies will be kept by the County Archives Department and the county clerk. The county, or his or her designee, shall make all necessary provisions to comply with this resolution, the cost of which shall be paid from county funds. That's my motion.
Okay. Do I have a secondary on the motion?
I'll second.
All in favor, saying aye on the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item, the resolution to establish redistricting committee county mayor bill Britain.
Year 2020 was the census year, where citizens in Hamilton County were counted, and now we're awaiting the results of the census count. One of the suggestions coming from the state election office is that we go ahead and get on the local, or actually it's from the comptroller's office, we go ahead and form a local reapportionment committee, redistricting committee, and start getting prepared once the census results are released to look at our district lines and whether and what changes need to be made and whether any need to be made. So there's a resolution in your packet that was provided by the comptroller's office that would establish the redistricting committee. It does call for this body to decide who to be on the committee. Just my suggestion would be that the administrator of election be on the committee. That's Jeff Gardner. Our GIS technician, Ashley Singer, be on the committee because she'll be the one who actually be doing the technical work on the maps and putting the lines in. And then 3 to 5 commissioners would be my suggestion, but that's your all's choice. And this doesn't have to be voted on at this meeting, but at the commission meeting, I would like maybe at that time you guys decide who you want on the committee, and then approve the resolution then.
So you want to vote on the resolution now?
It's up to you, but I mean, it probably give you time to decide who you want on the committee.
I agree. I'll make a I think we need to table this, Chairman, until we get.
You can't, you would have to ask for, you would have to ask that one of the other commissioners table it,
Yeah.
because you're chairing the committee.
Right.
You-
Could we keep it,
Motion to table it.
Okay,
just, if you guys want to act on it this month, that we keep it on the agenda for the commission meeting. But if you want to,
I personally think we need to act on it tonight,
okay.
as far as the resolution is concerned, but I'm just a member of the committee.
Well,
And we have a motion, we don't have a second yet, that it be tabled. And all that would need to be added between now and the commission meeting is the names of the people who are going to serve on the committee.
That's correct.
And I have a suggestion for that, and that would be that any commissioner who has a recommendation, turn that name in to the mayor between now and the deadline for us to meet, and then we'll go from there.
as long as we don't have to have the names tonight, I'm for that.
Okay?
Okay, I'll rescind my motion.
Okay. Well, you didn't have a second to it, so it didn't
Yeah.
amount to anything either.
Do I have a motion on the resolution itself?
I move that we approve the resolution.
Have a motion, do I have a second? Got a second, Joe Hudson. All in favor of the motion, saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Chairman Shirky, thank you, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Goins. At this time, the chair will recognize Chairman Randy DeBoard of the Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call the Personnel Committee to order. Do we have any visitors wishing to address the Personnel Committee tonight? Seeing none in old business, we have none. In new business, item 4A, amendments to employee handbook for military leave. Mayor Britton.
In the Hamilton County Handbook, under the military leave, what we've been practicing and what's in the handbook is that an employee who is let's say called out on guard duty or whatever, can get up to 15 days of paid leave. And then later in the year, if they're called out again, they could get 15 additional days. And that's been what we've been practicing. What the state law is on, that was passed a few years ago, is a maximum of 20 days. So what we're asking is that we change the policy to reflect what's in the Tennessee Code, and that's 20 days, a maximum of 20 days of military leave per year.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, would that still be split up 10-10?
It would be divided on how they need it.
Or how they need it?
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4B, amendment to the employee handbook for COVID-19 leave. Mayor Britton.
Hamilton County's been operating under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, or the acronym is FFCRA, regarding emergency paid leave for employees who require quarantine. And the provision of that leave under federal law is a maximum of 80 hours of paid leave under this emergency sick leave provision. And that expired on December 31st of this year. So we met this morning, county officials, department heads, met this morning to discuss how we move forward on this, because we are having employees miss work because of quarantine, whether it's because they're sick or a family member's sick or they've been exposed and we're waiting for test results. And so what the group is recommending to the commission to pass is this emergency COVID paid leave policy that's in on the sheet that was passed out earlier today. And this would be a policy that would be in effect from January 1st through April. And that is, each full-time county employee would receive 60 hours of emergency sick leave to use if he or she is required to be quarantined for exposure to COVID. When the emergency leave is exhausted, the employee shall use other leave he or she has accrued, and that's what we did last year as well. If the employee does not have any leave available, the employee will not be paid for the time that they missed. Employees who work 12-hour shifts are given 72 hours because if they miss a day of work, they're missing 12 hours. And so they would be given 72 hours, and regularly scheduled part-time employees would receive 30 hours of emergency sick time. And the emergency sick leave policy will be reviewed. We would meet again as department heads in early April, and then come to the commission with a recommendation on whether to extend it or to end it in April, just depending on how the pandemic is going at that time. But that's our recommendation as department heads.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the COVID emergency sick leave policy.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? This will have the ability to end at that point and will be renewed by decision if it comes to
By this body.
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Brennan, on this, I was curious, 60 hours, you know, I'm just spitballing here, but what about, that's, what, 6 or? It's
About a week and a half.
Yeah.
It's about a week and a half.
But it's, it breaks at a half day, and I didn't know if,
It's actually-
64.
It's actually 8 full days, Chris, because the county works on a 7.5 hour work
40
per
hours,
day.
40 hours a week.
And time,
Okay.
they don't work 40 hours.
Weekends don't count.
Okay, well, I knew that, but,
Some do, I thought it was all 7.5.
Not all of them. Some work 40, some work 37 and a half, and some work
37.5, it equals out to 8 complete days.
and that's work days. You need to have a weekend, the 10-day period.
I've got a question. Does this just cover the ones that's under quarantine? What if they have the virus? Does that still fall under the same thing?
Yes. Then they would be quarantined. Yeah.
I just wanted to
If they're sick, they would be quarantined, as well as if they've been exposed.
Okay.
Well, not so we were concerned for those that are hospitalized for a while. What do we have for those? We were extending that.
Well, we have a sick leave policy where employees earn 1 sick day a month. So if they have that, then after they exhaust their COVID leave, then they can use their sick leave or vacation or comp time, any or all of it, before their pay would be docked.
Mayor, is this a one-time thing or just per incident? I mean, if somebody has a family member that has it, has to quarantine, and then 3 weeks later they have another.
And we've had multiples. We've had about five employees have over 80 hours, and so it's multiple.
Bill, this is different. This will be reviewed every March.
This will be reviewed in April.
Did you get a second to the motion?
We have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4C is approval of longevity pay submission, and this is for Alex McLean for $225.
I'll make that motion.
We got a motion, do I have a second? Second. Got a motion and a second, any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. The board, at this time, the chair will recognize Chairman Tim Horner of the Justice Center Jail Project Committee.
address on Illinois 2343 Joe Stevens Road. I know in your packet you were talking about putting this out to bid. Well, to bid to the people that were pre-selected. I would ask again that you review this, that you do not put it out to bid until you are able to actually see the bid documents. I've attempted to see various documents that are at the city, and I've been refused because Mosley will not let the documents be seen. I cannot imagine being a commissioner and voting to proceed with any project, but especially a $75 million, and you can shake your head, $65 million construction, another $10 million with architects and project managers and property and all that other stuff. I cannot imagine proceeding with that without having actually seen the bid documents. I know you've seen little PowerPoints and this, that, and the other, but I'm talking about really seeing nearly final and or final bid documents. You would not do this with your own money or any project that you were doing for yourself. If you can tell me you would do that, then I want to avoid your business completely. And I certainly don't want you doing that with county money. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address? If not, item 3A, old business, we have none. Item 4A, commissioning service contract, county mayor.
Over the last month to 6 weeks, we've issued an RFQ for commissioning services and received 9 responses. And the scoring for those submittals is in your packet. And the scoring was done by Burwell, the project manager, Tony Pettit specifically, and then Mosley Architects as well. Those are the 2 organizations that scored the submittals. Integrity Consulting out of Memphis was rated number 1, and so we've been last week and today negotiating a contract with Integrity. At your seat is a draft contract that I received this afternoon after negotiations with them on Thursday and then again today. If you look on page 1, the first page inside, you'll see the base charge, the base rate for the contract will be $54,900, and what basically the service they would be providing is, and what commissioning is basically quality control on your mechanical, which is your HVAC system, on your electrical, and on your plumbing systems. And this project has a lot of money invested in those systems, and so we think Commissioner Horner and I sat in on the negotiations with Integrity, and that they provide a lot of value for the 54.9. Also, there's some alternates within the contract. If we choose that, and if the budget requires it, once we get the bids in March, that we want to use some other services that they offer, but it's not in their base bid, that we could choose to add that to the contract and an addendum. And we've talked to them about those. Some of them we know we won't use, some of them we might, depending on the availability of the money. So
And we would do that on an as-needed basis?
Correct. And it would come to you, and you would we would make a recommendation, and then you would make the decision. So this is a recommendation for adoption of the contract with integrity.
Is there any other discussion? Do I hear a motion to approve the commissioning service contract?
So moved.
I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Service contract passes. Item 4B.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Neesmith has handed a handout to us.
Right.
If you'll notice at the very bottom, it has a motion. I think we might want to deal with that now if he's going to make a motion before the mayor gives us an update. Are you making?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Have a motion, do I hear a second?
Mr. Ward is seconding it.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Wait a minute. Open it for discussion.
Any discussion?
I'd like to ask the mayor if he has any update on the plans.
What's the motion?
The motion reads, I make a motion, well, it's Wayne's motion.
Okay, what this is, Taylor and I went down to City Hall to see the plans, because we had never seen the final plans. We went in and Nelson showed us plans, the site plan, which none of us had ever seen, and the stormwater we'd never seen, and the layout of the parking lot we'd never seen. And he told us that he had another stack of plans back in the back about that thick that he had got from Mosley, but Mosley wouldn't let anybody see them. So the plans were there. So we in turn come to Bill's, and we come to your office and asked you if you had any plans, you said no.
That's not true. I've got plans. They're out in the hallway.
Those are plans that's back in August and September.
That's not true either.
So your plans out in the hallway are the same as that the city's got?
No, I didn't say that either.
These are current plans that the city's got. And they hadn't even started going through them.
So basically, your motion is you want to have access to those plans.
Well, I think we need to look at them.
Okay. All right.
This kind of money we're spending, I think we need to look at them.
Have you looked at the plans, Wayne? Have you looked at the plans that are available?
Down there in the hallway?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to come over there.
So those were plans that were brought to me the day that the commission, or the committee, actually the committee, this committee voted to recommend bidding the project.
Well, we want to see current plans.
Well, if those plans at the city aren't current either because of tweaks we've made in the last week or so, working with department heads.
They were received in December.
And then we've made some changes since December. We will have a full set of plans next week. The plans that will go to the 4 companies that have qualified to bid on this project, we'll have those plans next week.
You'll have those plans.
The final plans to be bid with.
The final plans will go out to the people bidding on it, on the construction costs, but yet county commissioners don't get to see those plans.
So basically, Bill, you got the updated plans down there without, except for a few tweaks, correct?
The bulk of the design, the bulk of the construction plans, I'm talking over 80%, probably 90% are downstairs.
Well, we have a document in this packet where, the Department of Commerce is negotiating with Mosley on a couple supplements, you see. So those things are not going to be finalized for a while. That's still going to change the document, somewhere along the line.
and the documents have changed the whole time they're building them. Little tweaks here, little tweaks there, you know, you can't get that.
All I'm asking for is the county commission to see the current plan that we've got before we go to the plans we're gonna get next week, to go out to the contractors to bid on these projects. Personally, I wanna see what the third story looks like.
The third story, and it was, I think it was mentioned before in one of the presentations, is here. Third story is designed the way it's always been designed. Okay, it's the way it's going to be bid is what has changed a little bit. And what Commissioner Horner and I sat in on a meeting with the architect and the project manager a few weeks ago. We were talking, trying to find ways to trim costs in the project. And one was we removed some ceiling areas in non-secure areas so that we don't have, basically the ceiling is going to be the rafters. So that was one thing. And so that is saving us some money. Another is the way we're going to purchase certain equipment. And so that's an approach we're going to take to reduce our overall cost. And on the third floor, what we talked about, worst case scenario, let's say that the bids came in higher than what we're willing to accept. What we will bid and the way it will be bid is the third floor will be bid as a shell. And then the bidders will bid on how much it would cost to finish each housing unit. And then you can choose to finish all of them. You can choose 5 of them, 4 of them. You guys make that choice. That's what it is. As far as the plans, the construction plans, no change. Except for the ceiling part.
So they'll be bidding on what the plan is going to bid on.
Correct.
Like Howard brought this up 3 or 4 months ago. If these prices come back in, then more than we can afford, we might have to do something. So that's why you're saying that shell, we can just make that a shell.
Sure.
And when you do that, just a shell, that cuts your from 600 people down to 400 people. Because you're not using it. It's a shell. It's a storage room.
But Wayne, it's an option. It's an option you guys have. And so this is an approach taken in bidding to help you manage what the project is going to end up costing. That's what this is all about.
That's what I want to look at. If that's what it is. We don't know what it's going to come in yet.
You want to look at the narrative? Is that what you want to look at? Because it won't change the drawings.
I know that. The drawing's not going to change. Because you're going to bid it like, you're going to build it as a full unit. Everything's in there. And then we're going to look at it as a shell. Am I right?
Okay.
It is as a shell.
Okay.
So you got a car with a radio in it, but you decide that radio costs too much, so now you're going to take the radio out. That's what, now you got the shell.
Okay.
Okay, that's where I'm at. So if this bid comes in too high, Howard, we're going to have to do something. We don't have the money. We either go get borrow more money to finish the whole thing out, or
If it comes in too high, we can always rebid it if we have to.
I couldn't hear you, Jim. You talking to me?
If it comes in too high, you can always rebid it, the project.
You get it, this is one of the alternative things we can do. We can go in there and take the sales out of it and just use it for a shell. So now we're sitting there with 400 people if we do that.
That's why, Wayne, I described it as worst case scenario.
Yeah. Well,
That would be the very last thing we would do.
that's right. That's what it should be. But then you just end up with 400 people. If you have to do that. comes in low bottom. I hope they just right on the bottom, just about give it to us. I don't think that's gonna happen. With the price of materials going up, I don't know if any of you bought anything or not. My son built a house and 2 before was $2. That same 2 before today, 4 months later, $4. So that's what it's gonna go up.
Mr. Chairman, I call for the question. I call for the question. Let's vote the motion, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioning service, we doing his?
Yeah, his motion.
All in favor for?
I would recommend that you do it by roll call.
Okay, you might want to read it again.
We'll read it again.
And the motion will be for us to see what is the motion?
He says, I make a motion that we instruct Mosley to allow commissioners and members of the public
Okay.
to inspect and review the most recent version of plans that are currently at the city and any future sets of plans that are placed with the city or the county, and that no plans be put out for bid until the commissioners and the public have at least 10 days to review and inspect them. That's his motion.
So the most recent ones are down in the mayor's outside in the hallway, correct?
No, the plans that are at the city, that the city is reviewing, are more current than the ones we have.
Because we made changes, or they consider the changes to the things we have to do.
One final question, Mayor. Will we have that opportunity to see them before they go to bid?
They're sitting outside my office door.
Thank you.
One change I've ever seen was something like a little table on it to the rest. That's the only changes that I've seen. The majority, like you said, 89% is still there.
I think I call for the question.
Yes, sir.
That should have ended the discussion.
Go ahead and vote for it.
Okay. Jeff Akerd,
Yes.
Eileen Arnwine. No. Chris Cutshaw,
Yes.
Randy DeBoard,
Yes.
Thomas Doty,
Yes.
Tim Goins,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Yes.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Wayne Neesmith,
Yes.
Mike Reed's not here. Howard Shipley,
No.
Jim Stepp,
Yes.
Taylor Ward.
Yep.
$11 yes, 2 no, 1 absent. Motion passes.
All right, so make it clear then, we're delaying sending the plans to the construction companies for 10 days.
Now, what effect is that going to have on your report now?
We're gonna do that the 19th, is that right, Howard? We're gonna send those bids out for contract the 19th.
That's the schedule that he has.
If we can get
Will
those
that
plans to the city, we can look at them.
Will that affect our scheduling?
I'll find out.
Hey, can I make a suggestion? Is it possible, Bill, that you could probably have motion, bring new plans in that what you're talking about, and have some kind of like room, like the west room, something like that, and have it laid out there, and give us a 2-hour period. Anybody that would want to come in there and look at anything specifically, Wayne wants to see something, look at all the new plans we got. Because the first thing is, that's 1,000 pages. I mean, you can't carry all the stuff around each person here. But you could do that with somebody with knowledge, and they could ask questions, and nothing wrong with that at all. And before they put it up to bid, if we could do that, I think that would solve a lot of problems.
Okay, let me inquire with Mosley. How's the best way to make an assessment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now to move forward with the commission service contract. Do I hear a motion to approve?
We've already done that, haven't we? Yeah, we've taken care of that.
No,
We need his report.
project update.
Yeah, just an update on some items, and some of these documents are in your packet, is the Fire Marshal's office has finished its review of the plans, and with approval with a couple of stipulations which are standard for projects of this size. The city is reviewing the plans for the issuance of a building permit. The latest timeline is in your packet, where the invitation to bid to the 4 companies that are pre-qualified will be this week. We'll release the plans next Monday, or with the delay, so it would be the 21st would be when we would release them. The pre-bid meeting is February 9th. That may have to be delayed. We'll find out about that. Receive bids on March the 2nd. That will be a virtual event. It'll be at 2 o'clock on March the 2nd. And then the commission vote would be in March, and the bid award would be in March as well. You have the invitation to bid in your packet. That will go this week to the 4 companies. Then we have we opened the pre-qualifying back up and for about 10 days, and got about 3 inquiries, but no additional submittals. So Bell Construction, Blaine Construction, Branch Builds, and WC English are the 4 companies that have qualified for the project, and they will get access to the plans at the appropriate time. On the Hale property, we had in your packet is the bid tabulation for that. We only had one. Well, we only had 1 company whose bid was open. We had 2 submit bids. 1 did not do it correctly as far as the documentation, so we did not open it, and we disqualified that. And so the architect is negotiating with Andrews Hoskins to see if they can reduce their price some. And so we'll come back at the commission meeting. You'll see in calendar and rules we have an item on the agenda to vote on the Hale project, whether to reject the bids and rebid it or accept. And we'll have a recommendation at the committee meeting or commission meeting. So that's my update.
Mayor, you said we just still got 1 bid on the Hale property?
Yes. We got 2. Well, we got one for the parking lot and the house, and then we got 1 for the parking lot.
Nobody don't want to touch the house?
Are you going to be able to get us that information before the meeting date?
Yeah, well, I'll send out a memo.
Okay, thank you.
Is it not worth us trying to go out and get another bid, or get some more bids, if we just have for 1?
The architect talked to a lot of firms. Part of it, I think, is the project's not big enough. When there was there was more interest when there was the prefab maintenance building with it.
We don't know how much it's going to cost.
What?
We don't know what it's going to cost yet.
What? Which?
Property.
Yeah, it's in the bid.
It's not in our packet.
Yeah. Bid packet.
Well, some of us don't have it. I looked for it even before this. I saw it online.
It's a spreadsheet.
Now, I saw that online, but it's not in my packet. I got it online. Well, I'm fixing to hand you the whole book. That's what I was saying. See this?
See, that concludes.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 5A, items of interest, none, all I have.
Thank you, Chairman Horner. At this time, the chair will recognize Chairman of the Board of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call the Finance Committee to order. Do we have any visitors wishing to address the Finance Committee?
My name is Linda Noe, 2343 Joe Stevens Road. I'd like to talk about attorney billings that are considered in Finance Committee. Sharon Kim and I represent Edna Green in a false claims lawsuit against Mr. Capps. The suit was filed in late 2018, and Mr. Capps obviously cannot represent the county in that lawsuit, and he in fact sent Mr. Britton a letter in May 2019 saying that the county needed to get another attorney to represent the county's interests. At a previous meeting that was asked about, and Mr. Britton said there was no attorney representing the county. Now with that background, I remind you that you had a closed executive session with Mr. Capps on October 22nd, 2020. Executive sessions are to discuss pending litigation or anticipated litigation with your attorney. Again, Mr. Capps recused himself because of a conflict of interest and does not represent the county in Ms. Green's lawsuit. So what I'm here to remind you, and I had actually intended to ask Mr. Capps, but I believe he's, see here? Oh, behind the thing? Oh, okay, good, okay. Perhaps he can rise up and answer this. If Mr. Capps discussed my client's lawsuit in that executive session, closed executive session, he abused the attorney-client privilege because he has no attorney-client privilege in regard to that lawsuit. It also brings up an open meetings issue because you closed discussion to something you did not have a right to close discussion. If you're talking about Ms. Green's lawsuit and Mr. Capps is the attorney discussing it, again, he had no right, no privilege to discuss that in a closed session. Now, I don't think you all realize this. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. I'm assuming you either didn't know about the lawsuit or you didn't know that Mr. Capps was not representing you in that lawsuit. So rather than put it on you at this time, I would like to ask Mr. Capps to either admit or deny that he improperly used the closed executive session on October 22nd to discuss a lawsuit in which he does not represent the county. And maybe he can pop it. You sure he's back there?
No, he's gone.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, if he is not here, then I would address this to Chairman Shipley. You were at that meeting, or Mayor Britton. Mayor Britton was at the meeting, and I think all of you were.
Let me respond to that comment very quickly. We are not privy to discuss what was discussed at that meeting. I would be violating our code of ethics, and then you'd have a lawsuit filed against me.
No, you would not be. If you discussed something that you were not allowed to discuss, you violated.
Well,
and that's what I'm trying to find out.
I'm just saying that I cannot answer your question.
Actually, you can. If you were you can tell what you discussed. You cannot tell the communications, like what facts you imparted to Mr. Capps or what legal advice he gave you. But you'll see in many public notices of executive sessions that they will list what's going to be discussed. They won't say, and they don't keep minutes, and they don't let you know what transpired, but they just simply tell you the topic.
Well, Mr. Capps can respond to you in writing.
I will send him an email, I'll copy all of you, because if he cannot tell me that he did not discuss that, then you will have an open meetings lawsuit filed no later than Wednesday, and that will be on you. I'm trying to protect you. I don't know why I do that. Let you get out of your, civil rights violation and everything else, but
Thank you.
I'm not going to let you out of this one.
Do we have anyone else that would like to address the committee? Seeing none in the recurring business on 2A, you have your expenditure reports. Do we have a motion to accept the checks as written?
So moved.
We've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. In old business, there is none. In new business, item 4A, budget amendments, finance director, Ms. Hurst. This first one is Fund 101 for $7,089.
As you know, when we passed, or when y'all passed the drug fund budget, part of that budget is supplemental pay for our narcotics officers. But because that's salary, we have to pay it out of Fund 101. And then we have Fund 122 reimburse Fund 101. That's just the process of that payment. This puts the money that the drug fund refunded Fund 101 and puts it back in those spending lines where we originally charged that. So it just makes everything being charged to the correct fund. These expenses are approved out of the drug fund.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept that transaction?
A motion accepted.
Got a motion? Or do we have a second? We have a second, Joe Hudson. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4A2, Fund 101, property reappraisals, and that's for $23,150.
You may want to defer this until Mr. Ely speaks. This is related to the request that he's going to make down in 4D. And if you approve the request that Mr. Ely's making, then we'll need to approve this budget amendment. But we just had it prepared.
Okay, so we'll table that for just a moment, and then we'll go on to 4A3 for 101, juvenile court, $6,500.
We have someone that's retiring from juvenile court, and someone has been hired to replace that person, but there's going to be some overlapping training, and and then again, of course, the person that's leaving has some items that must be paid out, accrued vacation and so forth. This covers those costs that we've got asking for here, the $6,000 in the educational assistance line and the state retirement. Now, there's money within that budget in the attendance line item to cover those expenses. But because it does refer to salary, we need to, have your approval to do that.
So do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve this.
And we've got a second with Joe Huntsman. Chris Cutshaw. And is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4A4, Fund 101 for rabies and animal control of $6,000.
This covers, there were some changes in how long I can go through this line by line. We are adding $2,200 to deputies, $500 to longevity, state retirement, Social Security $425, state retirement $325, employer Medicare $50, and contracts with private agencies $5,000. You were originally presented a budget for this new department, and those were estimates based on what we thought would happen. This reflects the actuality of who was hired in these positions. We had someone from the Sheriff's Department, a county employee that took one of those jobs, a full-time person, and that's why there's longevity. This person just brings his longevity over to this department. Because we maintained one more month of working with the Humane Society with our previous contract, that's why there's a change in that contracts with private agencies. That one extra month is responsible for that extra $5,000. We're asking, since you had originally approved more than we needed for vehicles to establish this department, we're able to take it out of funds that we already have, that you've already approved, so it's not additional funds. And then the $2,500 represents that part that the city will pay toward that $5,000. So, in all, we're not asking, or this does not require any new money, and it comes out of the vehicles and will come from the city of Morristown when they pay their share.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We got a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Huntsman? Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4A5, 101 for Election Commission COVID-19 grant for $9,070.
Again, this is an interdepartmental transfer amendment. So it takes funds from postal charges, and you'll see that we may have some, I'm going to call it evening up in the actual election budget at a later time. But right now, when Mr. Gardner, Administrator of Elections, received this grant, this is how he thought he would spend the funds. So he had more left in postage, but yet he paid more out of the election workers line item. And this just, he had a projected budget, and now this reflects what he actually spent in these line items, but no more than what was originally approved.
Do we have a motion for internal transaction? We have a motion. We got a second with Mr. Doty. Tim Dillon. And then Mr. Doty. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4A6, Fund 122 for Drug Fund, Drug Enforcement for $1,626.50.
Originally, we had budgeted for, I believe it's $1,500 supplements. Now we are going to need one additional supplement, this is from the drug fund, to approve hazard pay for our officers, and Mr. Mullins is one here, that are certified scuba diving, deep diving, for evidence retrieval, investigations, and so forth. He and one other officer will be available to assist the county in those efforts. And we need to put enough for one more position, one more supplement in this line item. And this is the drug fund, so these are funds that are approved for those purposes.
Mr. Chairman, want to make a motion?
We got a motion, Chris and Tim. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4B, bid tabulation on electronic communicators. Mayor Britton.
Part of our efforts to protect our employees and the public during the pandemic has been to install security glass or at all the service counters. We had it previously in the county clerk's office, but not at the other service counters, and so we've added it at all the service counters to separate the public from the staff and vice versa. What we've learned during that is that there's a break. Sometimes it's hard to hear both ways. And so what we've done is we've bid for intercom systems, for the lack of a better word, electronic communication systems, where you have a speaker on the customer side with a microphone insert, and then the clerk also has a microphone and a speaker, and so they can hear each other better. So we bid those items. We had two companies submit bids. The low per unit cost was DK Hardware of Hallandale Beach, Florida, with $1,450 per unit for the intercom and $210 per headset. We've got departments requesting a total of 16 intercom units and 19 headsets for a total of $27,000, and those will be paid from federal COVID money that will be reimbursed for that expense from the federal COVID money. But what we're asking for is approval of the award for purchasing to the low bidder.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion to approve?
Second.
There's a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4C, bid tabulation on new concrete sidewalk. And this is a pad and drainage for the health department. Mayor Britton?
If you've been to the health department during all the testing that Sherry and her team has been doing, and or the vaccination, you've seen where the canvas area to the left is where the testing samples are taken. And what the health department is asking is that area be completely concreted. And so there were specs prepared, and which would require expanding the concrete pad, would require some drainage work to keep the water from running under the door into the health department. And we had 11 contractors come and look at the project, and only one submitted a bid for it, and that was East Tennessee Construction. Our maintenance supervisor, Terry Myers, is here, and he can explain the process, but he had 11 companies come and look at it. And Sherry Montgomery, director of the health department, is here to talk about the need if you want to discuss. But what we're asking for is approval for $17,280 to complete that project, and that'll be reimbursed to the county federal COVID dollars.
I move that we approve.
We got a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. Got a second, Mr. Doty? Any discussion?
Well, what's it pad for?
Sherry, you want to address that?
The pad would be at the exit door that goes right from the building right into the tent that has the red and white top. As it is now, it stays very muddy and soggy there because the drainage is not very good. And there's constant traffic of the National Guard and our staff going out that door with our vaccines, going out that door with our PCR test kits. So it's just, we keep cardboard down now trying to avoid the mud puddles. So it's to improve the conditions.
Have you been down there?
No, I haven't been.
Yeah, if you've been there, you'll recognize the need for it.
Oh, okay.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4D for assessor property additional employee. Keith, Huey?
Mr. Chairman and County Commission, thank you for your time and opportunity to look at this request. What I'm looking for is an additional person in my office. Let me give you a little bit of background why. Due to Tennessee Code Annotated, it dictates how many people you should have in your office and assessor's office. For the first 9,000 parcels, you get one person. For every 4,500 parcels after that, you get one additional person. So when you get 31,500 parcels, you should have 6 people in your office. Right now, I'm running with 5, okay? Now, the next question is you're going to say, how many parcels are you having in your office? Right now, we're dealing with 34,388, so we're 3,000 over at threshold right there, okay? So, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is the growth in the county that we're seeing that's causing this. Just over the last year and a half, we've increased 2,084 parcels, about 7.1%. Deed transfers that comes over from the Register of Deeds office has gone up 6.3%. That's from 19 to 20. So that's where we're having a large increase. You're saying, how's that affect your office? Well, we have to go in every one of those deeds and put in new ownership. We got to put in the sales data. We have to do validate it, if it's a valid sale or not. We have to send out sales questionnaires to the buyers. So it just creates a lot of additional paperwork we got to deal with. And just so you know what my department's dealing with right now, we manage about $5.5 billion in appraisals in this county. So that's where we're at. And that's gone up $649 million in the last year, but that's due to a reappraisal, granted, okay? So that just kind of gives you an idea. And then my next question may be is, well, why have you asked for another person since you already hit that threshold a couple of years ago? Not bragging, I'm just saying I work my office. I'm there every day. I key punch, I work the counter, I answer the phones and all that type of stuff. So we didn't need to bring another person on and put that on the budget. So, but now it's getting kind of where we need somebody. Any questions?
Keith, don't you have potential turnover forthcoming?
Yes, could have, yes. I've got some older employees. And right now I'm down I'm down 50% of my staff right now due to COVID. We got one out with COVID, got one out with knee surgery, and one's got a broken leg. So, but yes, I'm sure in the next couple of years probably we'll have some turnover. Because I got employees been there 32 years, and I got 3 or 4 that's been over 20 years, and they're getting up in age too, a couple of them. So, but you know, I don't want to dwell on that. So.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have many of them. Who came first? I think Mr. Doty.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Any further discussion?
Who seconded?
Tim?
Mr. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, like sign? Motion carries. Item 4E, pay plan adjustment. Mayor Britton?
Chairman,
Yes.
would revisit that budget
Oh, I need to
amendment.
go back to that, that's right. We'll go ahead back to 4.2, Fund 101 for property reappraisal for $23,150. And with what we just voted on, this will allow this to happen. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We got a motion to approve. And we got a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. All right. Now back to 4E, pay plan adjustment. Mayor Britton.
In your packet is a memo from me regarding the pay plan adjustments. Back in 2005, Hamilton County had a pay plan study performed to try to get some uniformity in how our employees are paid from office to office, and instead of them being all over the place. And so So in 2005, we implemented a pay plan and have been using it ever since. Every 5 years, we update the plan, and where the consultant who we've been using comes in, he does plans all over the state of Tennessee. He brings in and goes to different counties and cities and gets their compensation data and compares and creates a matrix from us to pay from. And so he did that last year, this time last year, and we did not implement the pay plan adjustments because of COVID in the budget. We delayed it because we did not know how our revenues would be impacted by COVID, and so during the budget time, we said we'd revisit it in January, and that's what we've done. I spent the last 3 weeks just looking at the plan, looking at different parts of our compensation package to make sure that we can keep our employees, be competitive with both the private and public sector, and take the adjustments that the consultant suggested and see how that implemented the whole compensation for all departments. One of the things that I also looked at was our revenues and how they've been doing during the first 6 months of this year. The revenues have been strong. They've held their own. Our cash is up over $1 million from a year ago. And we have not, cross your fingers, have not been affected negatively by the pandemic so far. And also our department heads have been very judicious in managing their budgets. And so last year in the general fund, we finished over $700,000 in the black. And we're looking for another year in the black this year as well. So what I'm recommending is first is across the board a 2% pay increase for full-time county employees, and that would cost for the remaining 6 months of this fiscal year about $51,000. Adjustments to about 13 employees. These are adjustments that are over the 2% to get them in line with what other counties are paying. And there's 13 employees who would get those adjustments, and that would cost about $17,659. A $250 lump sum payment to part-time employees. There's 34 of those individuals. That would be $9,700. And then in the adjustments that the pay plan consultant presented, there were several of them that were in the sheriff's department. And so I took a deeper dive into the sheriff's department pay schedule and found that mostly in the sergeants and the lieutenants, on the patrol and detective divisions, we weren't paying what we should be paying under the plan. We weren't paying the minimum. And so we went in working with the sheriff's staff and reviewed it with the sheriff afterwards and came up with a comprehensive update of the sheriff's department employees, which would cost right at $72,000 for this year. And that would get all the sheriff's department employees up to the minimum of their skill level, and would also increase jailer pay by 50 cents an hour to help us retain and recruit jailers, and would also increase and make some other adjustments in the clerical side as well that the consultant suggested. So big picture overall, and then there was also 2% in sanitation and highway, a couple of adjustments in those departments, not many, I think 3 in highway, 1 in sanitation, and the total cost would be $150,486, and that includes payroll taxes and the retirement contribution, the county's retirement contribution. So I'm asking that you fund these pay increases for our employees. We have some awfully good employees, and we need to be able to keep them. And we train them well, and from time to time we lose employees because of compensation. We train them and then we lose them, and that's not fun. It's happened to the mayor's office.
I move that we approve the plan.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Question?
Yes.
I don't clearly understand where the sergeants and the lieutenants had been overlooked. How far back does that go, Mayor Britton?
Honestly, I don't know.
If we approve this, will it actually go there?
Yes, yes. The sheriff has endorsed it.
And if we're just bringing them up to the minimum, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, Tim, this is what I see, is this is step one, okay, in trying to get our guys and gals to where they need to be, where we're competitive, because we lose more people.
And that's probably what we're doing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
How do
They
we
would tell you that in exit interviews.
How do we compare with surrounding counties in the pay scale for our law enforcement people?
With these adjustments, we're about in the middle.
About in the middle?
Yeah. Of other counties. Now, if you look at compensation in law enforcement, cities are up here.
Yeah, I understand that.
And counties are down here. Okay? And the thing the disadvantage we have, and we've talked about it in the office, is that we're competing directly with one of the highest paid forces.
I know that, but, you know, I wish that sometime we could increase that area. I understand that even the sanitation department is having a hard time keeping employees for the very same reason. So nobody wants to ride the back end of a garbage truck.
So this is step one.
Step one, okay.
Implementing this pay adjustments from what were recommended last year, the 2% increase, the 50-cent increase for jailers, that's step one, and then we'll keep looking at it to try to improve it, to try to keep our people.
And how far back does that data go? I mean, was this plan done last year, or was this plan done this year?
It was done this time in 2019.
2019?
No, 2020, I'm sorry.
2020, okay. All right, and does this bring all levels? Because if there was a discrepancy, or if the sergeants and the lieutenants were not to where they needed to be, who's next?
Everybody's at least at minimum, at least.
All right, so we have this fixed.
Yes.
And have we considered asking for our people to sign non-competes, or is that even acceptable in this?
I've got to do that research. I'm not sure. I know that in some other departments where we train them to be certified, and then in the past we've lost some, we've required them when they accept the job, when they get certified, that they repay their training if they leave in a certain amount of time.
Mr. Chairman, you would, I have to abstain from this because this raise will directly affect my wife as she is county employee.
Okay, we got one abstaining. Do we have any other discussion, I guess? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion? Do we have a second? Got a second with Chris Cutshaw?
We already did that.
That's okay, let him make the motion. We already had a motion, but he's, strike it out.
You're fine.
That's-
Oh, that's right.
I
Okay,
think we
all
had
in favor, let it be known.
We already had a motion in a second, because he
Yeah.
seconded it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leave it like it was. Me and Chris.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. And then, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman of the Board. At this time, the Chair will recognize Chairman James Depp of the Calendar and Rules Committee.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll order the calendar and rules address the committee, you have about 5 minutes to do so.
Linda Noe, 2343 Joe Stevens Road. Something was said a minute ago that caught my ear. I don't know if it caught yours or not. That regarding the jail, it was said that the pre-qualification was opened back up. How was that done? In fact, how was the first pre-qualification actually done? I know Mr. Britton stood up here and said, well, we usually do a public notice, but I don't know how the first one was done other than Mosley and Burwell were calling people. I don't know how this pre-qualification was opened back up. I understand no additional pre-qualification submittals were received. But again, we get back to the process. How was that done? Who knew? I won't even ask if you all knew. Thank you.
We know, or some of us know, because we got,
Can I respond to that, please?
yes.
We issued an addendum on December 30th, extending the submission deadline to January 5th, 3 o'clock. The project information was advertised on December 22nd in the Knoxville News Sentinel. The information was emailed to 95 contractors, all GCs, who have contact information for on December 22nd. We also sent to Builders Exchange and Contract Connect to advertise on December 22nd. We listed the original document and addendum on Hamilton County's website and Mosley Architects' website, and no responses were received.
Chairman, am I correct? It's not a question, intercession, and comments. Am I correct on that? When you come up to speak, it's not a question and answer session. It's just it's only comments only.
Yes, you're correct.
I ask to keep that to that, please. Anyone else want to address it? Under rules. If not, item 3A, there's no old business. Item 4A, review fair calendar items. Anyone put in for a motion? So have a motion, we have a second.
Do we have anything that we need to add to that? We've got some stuff. It's on the agenda? Okay. All right, thank you.
All approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Who seconded the motion, please?
Tim Horner.
Tim Horner.
Who was the first? Jim said.
We good?
Yeah.
Did Jim make it?
Yeah.
Motion passes. Item 4B, review consent calendar items. Have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second? Second. Any discussion? If there is none, all approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Chairman Stepp. I want to remind commissioners to leave your notebooks here so that they can be prepared for a regular meeting. We stand adjourned.